Earlier this week, I made a difficult decision. After 2.5 years in the running, serving 140 plus clients in every niche imaginable, incredible business owners around the world, I made the difficult decision to shut down my accelerator program, a group coaching offer that had to date generated well over $750,000 in sales, my most profitable offer ever, and pivoted my business to exclusively offering one-on-one coaching moving forward, an offer that doesn't scale, that probably will make me a lot less money, and most business coaches would tell you is absolutely crazy. You might be asking yourself the question, Jason, why did you do that? That sounds like the dumbest decision ever. And I get it. I understand where your head's at. And I want to answer that question in this video and walk you through the difficult thought process that led me to make that choice, why I did that, why I think it's a better move for me and my business moving forward, and most importantly, the lessons that you can take away and apply to your online business from that decision, because I think there really are some important lessons here for you that are going to make the journey of growing your online business moving forward so much easier. So I'm excited to share this with you. It really starts going back to about 6 to 9 months ago in my business, where for the past few years in my business, I've primarily served brand new business owners and helped brand new business owners launch their businesses. We've also focused on helping folks who are more established grow and scale their businesses. But the bread and butter of my business for the past few years has been helping folks who are brand new, just getting started, launch their businesses, get things up and running, sign their first few clients. And I built a very successful large group program, which originally was called Coaching Launchpad, later became Accelerator, that was really designed to help people do this. Over time, what I started to see through years of running this program was that a lot of people who were new were coming in and they were getting really good results, but the people who were most successful in my programs were the people who were coming in who had a business up and running already and were really coming to me to help them get to the next level. In many cases, these people would come into my program and they double, triple, quadruple their revenue. And on the other hand, I was working with a lot of new folks who, a lot of them were getting results, but not nearly to that same degree as the folks who were more established. And also those people it was a market that was a little bit more like churn and burn. It was like people would come in, they'd, go through the 6 months and then they'd be off. Versus those more established clients who I felt like I could deepen relationships with, they would stick around for longer. I enjoyed working with them on a deeper level. After several years of this, I started looking at my business and I said, okay, I have these two segments of people, both very different. Both I feel like I can help to a certain extent. But there's one segment of the market here that I just feel really lit up about. I feel aligned. I feel like I can get 1,000% behind. And I didn't feel that way to the same extent about folks who are brand new. And this was an uncomfortable thing for me to even acknowledge and look at. Because honestly, we were making a lot of money helping folks who are brand new. And that at that point in my business was like 75%, 80% of my business. So my fear was, well, if I let go of that, is there even going to be a business? Are there enough people out there who are more established, who are going to want to work with me, that I can really build a successful business around that higher end market? I was afraid that there wasn't going to be enough. And so I hung on to this business and straddled these two niches for a while, basically out of fear. But at a certain point, it became very clear to me, and really what happened, I remember the moment in particular, I was on this mastermind or out in Napa Valley with one of my mentors at this mastermind, and he asked me a very important question. He said, Jason, if you had $5 million in the bank or $10 million in the bank, or just enough money that you wouldn't have to worry about money for the rest of your life, that was not a concern, who would you work with? And my honest answer was I would be helping established online business owners grow. And as soon as that became clear to me, I knew that I had to let go of helping folks who were brand new. And it was a really uncomfortable thing to acknowledge, but it set in process a chain of decisions that started really manifesting in the business as a pivot. Now, this meant letting go of like 80% of what was then our niche. And this was a hard choice to make. But initially, I had this group program, Accelerator, and I said, you know what? We can hang on to this program. Let's just turn this program into more of like a mastermind for these folks who are more established. And I had a lot of folks who were newer inside this program. And we were also starting to sign clients who were more established as, the messaging changed and my marketing changed. And I was focusing on working with folks who are more established. This was probably my first mistake because it's really hard to pivot a program. And when you have a certain type of clientele inside a program, and then you try to make it something different, especially when there are active people inside that program, it's very difficult to do that. So what started happening was the folks who were more established didn't really want to stick around because they were like, hey, I'm in this group program with people who are newer. And the folks who are newer were like, well, I don't want to sit on these calls with a bunch of people who are more established, who are asking all these questions that are like 10 steps ahead of where I am. So it created this situation where both groups were actually unhappy. And I think so much of what I've learned in business is some of the biggest mistakes that I've ever made in business have been the result of being straddled. When I haven't had the courage to make a firm line in the sand kind of decision, and I've said, well, maybe I can be straddled in both. And I see this all the time with entrepreneurs that I work with too, whether it's like, hey, we're hanging on to two different niches, or hey, we have this one program that we're trying to do like 2 or 3 different things with it, instead of just saying like, this is who this is for and this is what it's going to be, and making those really like firm, bold line in the sand commitments and decisions. That is what creates success in a business. So as a side note, you might ask yourself right now in your business, are you able to notice any pockets of that kind of thinking where you're straddled, where there are aspects in your business where you're one foot in one camp and one foot in the other? That's a really important question to ask. But really, looking back to my first choice around trying to hang on to this program, I was like, okay, well, maybe we can do both and serve both people. We just kind of transition it over time. That didn't work. The other thing that started to happen was and this became clearer to me over time, effectively in making that decision to cut off like 80% of the market, I had basically transitioned the business from a high volume, lower intimacy model to a lower volume, higher intimacy model. And I think this is really important to understand, because depending on the types of people that you serve, there's kind of a continuum that exists in any niche, in any market, and with any business. You can be the kind of business who is a low volume, high intimacy business, the types of people who are like, they're super boutique. Maybe you only serve a very small number of clients in a really high touch way at once. Or you can be like a mass market business, like an Amazon, or like someone who sells an online course to thousands of people. And there's no right or wrong here. It's not that one is bad and one is good. We need both of those things. We need people who are in between too. But what I had realized over time, and this wasn't clear to me up front, and making this pivot after we started adjusting the messaging and my marketing, I realized that since I cut off like 80% of my client base, essentially, we basically made a decision, and I made a decision to pivot my business to a lower volume, high intimacy play. Yet I was still running this group program like it was the days when we had 100 plus clients. And I was trying to serve these new clients in the same way that I was serving the old clients, when in reality, these new clients, the folks who are more established, actually needed something very different. And yet I was trying to basically put that new market into this box of the old market because I didn't want to let the old thing go. And part of this was on a personal level. I mean, I built a really beautiful community of people who, and many of you, if you're watching this, who you've been in Accelerator, I know some of my clients probably are watching this, how special that group is. An incredible space where every week people are coming together. And it was really just inspiring for me to get to see so many incredible people connecting. And I didn't want to let that go. So looking at this and looking at the first realization that I had is that my offer really no longer fit the market. And so you might ask yourself in your business, am I trying to build an offer because I have this idea of what the offer should be? Or am I looking at my niche and asking myself, what is the best way to serve that niche? This is one of the biggest principles that I teach when it comes to building businesses. There's two ways you can go. You can try to build something in your business and then fit a niche into it. Or you can start from the niche first. And you can say, what does that niche need? And then build the thing in response to looking to really serve that group of people and solve that problem. And the business owners who do it that way, always more successful. It's the people who come up with something and then they're like, how do I sell it? How do I find a group of people to sell it to? Those people always have issues. Hey friend, hope you're enjoying this episode of the podcast. And before we get back to it, if you're an established online business owner who's serious about unlocking your next level of income and impact and growth in your business, I want you to watch my free $1 Million Online Business Training, where I walk through a 4-step roadmap I've personally used to sell well over $1 million of coaching, consulting, and courses online. It's going to make the journey of growing your business so much easier. I want to give this to you for free. All you got to do to access it is go to jasonmoss.com/growth. That's jasonmoss.com/GROWTH to get free access to this training right now. Now back to the episode. The other thing that really shifted for me that made me realize that running our group program no longer made sense was I started asking different questions. And if I'm being honest with you, I think the primary question that has been in my mind over the past few years, and this is not that this is a bad question, but the question primarily has been, how do I scale? Yeah, I've had this vision and this goal for the past few years to hit 7 figures. And we've done it in total sales. I mean, I've sold well over $1 million of coaching and consulting courses. But in a year, I was like, okay, I want to have this 7-figure business. But honestly, if I'm being very real with you, the reason I wanted that was just to say I had a 7-figure business. It was just like, because as a business coach, you're like, okay, well, if I just tell people I'm making a lot of money, they want to hire me. That was my thinking, But there was no reason for wanting the 7-figure business beyond just the idea that I could make it happen. And so many people I talk to, the reason they want to scale is this, versus there's a difference between that and saying I want to make a specific amount of money because I have this home that I really want to buy, or because I want to send my kids to private school, or because I want to be generous in this way and give back and make this really big impact in my community. And this is what it's going to take financially to be able to do all those things. That's a very different conversation. When you treat scale as the thing that's at the pedestal, but there's no real reason for it, it can get you in a lot of trouble. And so this is what I started experiencing for me because, and I'll share a little bit more about this actually in a bit. I mean, I've always fought this tension between scale and the thing that actually I really enjoy, which is intimacy and connection. And so many of the things when I look back over the things that have been most enjoyable for me and have really given me this deep sense of purpose in my business, oftentimes they're the things that don't scale. I ran a retreat in, I forget when it was early this year, it was 12 entrepreneurs in Boulder, Colorado. And it was 2 days up in this beautiful mountain home in this remote area of Boulder. And it was my favorite thing that I've ever run. It was a beautiful experience. I mean, people were crying and there was deep healing and transformation happening. And I felt like that was one of the best things that I've ever done. And I want to do more of that kind of stuff. But you look at that, it's my mind looks at that and is well, it doesn't scale. So I've always had this tension in my business between these two parts of me, the part that wants to do the things that feed my soul that don't necessarily scale, and then the part of me that just wants to build the biggest thing in town. And I think it's important that we have both of these things because it's not that any of them are wrong. But I realized that that balance between those two parts is really important. And I had let some of those things get away from me over the years and had started making more and more decisions that were more rooted on how do I just build a bigger thing versus how do I create a business that I really want to wake up and be a part of every single day. And so when I started letting go of this question of like, how do I scale? I was like, you know what? If scale happens, great. Let me let scale be a byproduct of how do I build a business that number one is truly aligned for me, that I'm really going to enjoy. And number two, a business that was truly missed if it was gone. And this is a really powerful question. So many people build businesses for scale, but then I look at those businesses and I certainly look at the business that I created and I ask myself that question, if this wasn't here tomorrow, would people really miss it? And I couldn't answer a resounding yes to that question. And if you're a client of mine, maybe you disagree. You're like, Accelerated was awesome. I love you, Jason. If you weren't around tomorrow, I'd be upset. But in my heart of hearts, I started asking this question, what would a business look like if I was building a business, not to just be the biggest business in town, but a business that was truly missed if it was gone? What if my North Star was not, how do I just make more money, but how do I create this exceptional experience for every single person who starts, to work with me? How do I create something that every single person who walks in, their life is changed forever? They have these deep transformational experiences, their business blows up. And that they have that type of experience that is this was the best coaching experience I've ever had. And I started asking myself that question and I looked at how I was running my business and I realized this group program, while it was good, and I don't want to discount it, I think it was better than 99% of other stuff out there. But my bar is how do I create something that is truly incredible for people? Because I want you to come in and have that experience where it's this is amazing. And I realized that group program wasn't it. And I think the uncomfortable truth is, and I want to be very clear about this, I have nothing against group programs. I actually really enjoy running them. And I will probably run another group program at a point in the future. I might do it a little bit differently. And I help clients all the time scale and grow their group programs. So I have nothing philosophically against group programs. But here's what I find. For a lot of people in the coaching space, a lot of entrepreneurs that I talk to, people are kind of burned out from group programs, especially people who have been through group programs before. Because every group program is kind of the same. You go in, you get a bunch of content, you got to kind of figure out what to go through on your own. It's not really customized to you. Generally, there's some kind of cookie cutter box that you're put in, which I think for a lot of entrepreneurs doesn't really work all that well because we're unique and your strengths are different than my strengths. And so when I work with entrepreneurs, I've always had this vision of how do I create something that's truly tailored and customized to you rather than how do I create this perfect system that I can fit everybody into and you can just copy and paste into your business, because I don't think that works. And if you've been through other programs like that, you probably know it's you try on this thing and you feel like you got to force yourself into this box and be someone you're not. And it doesn't feel authentic to you and you don't want to do it. And it doesn't leverage your strengths or your unfair advantages versus actually having a plan that is designed around you and your strengths. That's what allows you to grow a business so much faster. We all have unique strengths that we can leverage. So I've always had this vision of how do I create something that is tailored and customized to you, because I think that's the best way to get people results. But it's really hard to do that within a group context. And also, you show up and you got to sit on group calls and wait 45 minutes to get your questions answered. And sometimes it's helpful, listening to other people. I don't want to discount that. I've learned a lot from group programs because I go in and I hear other people's questions. And oftentimes those are the same questions I'm asking. So I can learn from other people's experiences and connect with other people. There's a community aspect that's great. But honestly, after doing hundreds of sales calls, the biggest thing that comes up for people is they just want one-on-one. People want that customized, personalized, high-touch support. That's the thing that people have been asking me for the last few years. And so when I started asking myself this question, how do I create something that's truly exceptional, that would be truly missed if it was gone? I realized this group structure wasn't it. And if I could transition to one-on-one, I could create something that would create that kind of experience for a smaller group of people, where it was an experience that was truly transformational, right? Where I could be in a deeper way, more connected to these people and help them on a deeper level and serve in a deeper way and create better results. And the clients I've worked with one-on-one, they always get the best results. So I wanted to offer that to more people. So asking this question differently, transitioning my focus from how do I scale to how do I create something that would be truly missed if it was gone, really started creating some different pathways forward. The other interesting thing about one-on-one, just from a practical level, because you might be asking yourself the question, Jason, well, okay, how does that scale? And I've always been told that like the way to grow is by doing group programs. And I think there's some truth to that. Like you can create more leverage around your time with a group program. But I've been having this experience. I've been working with one of my mentors the past year and a half, and he does pretty much all of his coaching via Telegram, text message. And so basically I just text him. We barely even do calls. I think we've done maybe 3 or 4 calls in the whole time that I've been working with him. And I've paid him a lot of money and I've renewed, because having that real-time support and being able to text him on a daily basis when I get stuck or I have questions has been way more helpful than group calls. So I saw that and I was like, wow, I'm having this awesome experience with this one-to-one context in the mentor that I'm working with. This can also scale because I can serve a lot of people in this way. It's still my time, but it's a better way to serve people. I'm having a better experience. If I don't want another group program, why am I selling one? And I think this would create more of that experience where people would truly miss it if it was gone. And also, here's the other interesting thing. I looked at this a while back in our business. The people who work with me on a higher level, more intimate basis are far more likely to renew. And the lifetime value of those clients is significantly higher, might be 3 times or 4 times the lifetime value of someone who might just go through a group program with me once. And when you look at what's going on in the world with online business, it's becoming more challenging to get leads. Attention is becoming more difficult to harness because there's more people out there competing for attention, because ads are getting more expensive. So a lot of business owners who are running these kind of churn and burn type large programs where people come in and they come out, and then they're constantly reliant on new leads instead of how do we sell to our existing customers. Those are the businesses that are actually struggling. Versus if I can create an experience where someone comes in and they want to keep working with me over years, I can run a really profitable, successful business and actually make a lot more money in terms of profit. It might not be top line revenue, but in terms of profit. And I'm not in this position where I constantly have this high demand for new lead flow to be able to fill new spots. So my thinking started shifting around this. And this is what led me to think that, this new model was going to be a better fit. It's also just on a personal level more aligned for me as a human being. Alignment is so important in a business. And when I work with entrepreneurs, this is a piece that I think we talk about a lot. And I don't think most business owners really acknowledge, or it's inconvenient to acknowledge all these things within the context of many group programs, because alignment requires you to treat people as individuals. And most business coaches, particularly folks who are running larger programs, and there's nothing against these people. It's I was one of them, and we're transitioning out of this. It's I want to help everyone, but there's a reality to the fact that when you're working with a large number of clients, there's a limit to how much you can customize. But alignment is so important. And when I look at my business today, one of the things that has become so clear to me is that there are so many successful ways to build a business. So many successful ways. When I first started coaching back in 2016, I was running a business selling online courses primarily. And then I transitioned to selling a mastermind. And then when I started becoming a business coach, I was doing one-to-one. And I transitioned to a group program. And then I was selling, the retreat. And I've done pretty much all the models. And they all work. And there's so many different ways to market too, so many different platforms you can use. And so many people are looking for the one right way. But the more I've learned and the more I've been in business, I've been doing this I've been building online businesses for close to 20 years now. The more I've learned, there is not one way. The one way is the way, if there is a one way, it's the way that's right for you. And your job as an online business owner who is focused on sustainability, because that's the thing that people don't really talk about. You can go apply some cookie cutter model or system and get maybe some quick results. But if it's not feeling aligned for you and it requires you to show up in a way that is not leveraging your strengths, that requires you to contort yourself into some box that doesn't fit for you, you're going to burn out. And I did this in my first coaching business. Yeah, I ran it for 4 years and I built it to 6 figures. But it wasn't sustainable for me the way I was doing it and the way I was showing up in the business. And after 4 years, I said, I can't keep doing this. All the juice had been, it's like the juice had been squeezed. My priorities have shifted, and alignment is something that's so much more important to me now than it ever was, which means how do I build a business model that is going to allow me to show up in a way that feels sustainable, that feels nourishing, that feels fulfilling for me, that feels like it allows me to be who I want to be in my business. And this is a process. It's a big part of what I help people with today. Because when you do this and you make this the priority, it means that you can create a business that allows you to show up over the long run. So you don't become this flash in the pan. Because the secret to business is that it takes time. And the secret to success is that the people who stick in the game are the people who end up successful. My first year in business, online business, when I started coaching back in 2016, I made $4,728. And I was working really hard, creating a bunch of content. But, it was like no one was paying attention. But I found a way to fall in love with the process, and I kept showing up. And year 2, I think I made like $75,000. And year 3, I hit 6 figures. But it took some time. And this is, for as many of the stories that I talk about, the clients I've worked with who, they blow up really quickly, because as business coaches, we all love to tell those stories because they're attractive and everybody wants, quick results and fast success. But the truth is, for every story like that, I got another 10 stories of clients I've worked with who took a lot longer to start to see that traction and momentum. And the people who are continuing to show up, who stay the course, and who are able to create businesses that are aligned with them on a personal level so that they can do that, so they don't burn out. So they're not using strategies that require them to show up in a way that isn't a fit for them. Those are the people who succeed. So again, looking at my own business, realizing, the thing that feels most aligned for me is actually, I would love in this season, and this may change, but in this season, I want to work with a small number of people in a really intimate way. I want to be like in the business with them. Not like running their business, but I want to be, connected to them. I want to be more of that deeper support for people because I just enjoy it. I enjoy building those relationships that have more depth to them. I've always been like that. And yet I built a business that was kind of misaligned with that. So in many ways, this has been like a return back to, I think, who I really am. And you might look at your own business and ask yourself, am I building a business or using a model that is aligned for me? Or where are some of the areas where that might not be aligned? You can usually notice it because it feels like effort. And I'm not saying that, when you got a business that's aligned, it's not going to feel like you got to work sometimes. But there's a difference between feeling like you're pushing up a boulder up a hill every day versus feeling like there's more of this flow. Like when I can show up in a way that feels good to me, that leverages my strengths, there's not as much of that tension and that stress, and it just feels easier. That's what I want for you. And alignment is really the key. So asking yourself, are you building a business that is aligned for you? Or are you trying to take somebody else's model that maybe worked for them, but doesn't work for you? So for me, this is, at least in this season, it's 1-to-1. And then finally, this is a big one too, something I've been thinking about quite a bit. Another reason behind wanting to make this shift to 1-to-1 I'm seeing what's going on in AI right now. And obviously, you probably are too. I mean, ChatGPT, all of these incredible tools. And most people who have been following AI for a while will tell you this has just been under the surface. And now we have awareness of it in the public. But I'm already seeing so many different ways that these tools can be integrated into my business. And we're seeing all over the world how AI is massively impacting the way that businesses are run. I think of a time when I used to go to the supermarket and you had someone who would actually check out your food and like a cashier. And now I go to the supermarket, I don't want to see someone. I just want to like put my food in a little, automated checkout thing with a machine that can give me the receipt and allow me to pay for it. And all over the world, this is happening too. In every sphere of life, what used to be human is now being replaced by machines. And now that that's not there, I think people are craving it. And there's a real hunger for more of that intimacy and experiences where people can feel that sense of connection. I look at when I first started selling courses online compared to today, and it's much harder to sell online courses today. If you don't have some kind of a community component, or if there's not some way that you're creating intimacy and connection between you or between people, people just aren't as attracted to going through a bunch of videos as they were 10 years ago, when I got started. What people do want is intimacy. And I think in an increasingly AI world, in a world where more and more of our humanity is getting replaced by robots, by artificial intelligence, by ChatGPT, there is an opportunity for business owners like you and me who are looking at that shift and saying, there's really two directions you can go. You can go all the way down the AI rabbit hole. You can say, how do I just replace all the humanity in my business with a machine? And I'm not passing a value judgment on that. I think it's a race to the bottom. Or you can say, how can I ramp up the humanity? How can I create more intimacy and connection as a way of truly differentiating what I do? And I realized in my business, I had a choice point and an opportunity to really seize this moment. Because when I can say to you, I only offer one-on-one, which means when we work together, it's you and me. It means you reach out to me and text me and you actually have a conversation with me, not someone on my team, not a big group program where you got to wait to get your questions answered. I think that's more attractive than ever. And there's more of a hunger and a need for it than ever before. So looking at your business today and asking yourself, are there ways that I can dial up the humanity in the work that I do to bring more of that to the table, to use that as more of a differentiator, as a way of standing out in a world where that is increasingly in demand, where there's more need and desire for that than ever before? I think that is the opportunity that all of us have as online business owners. In many ways, it's a return to the beginning, when businesses were mom and pop shops, when you would go in and you would know the storekeeper's name and they would know yours, and you would feel connected and they'd ask you about your family and you'd have that sense of relationship. This is, in many ways, I think, what we are returning to. So, real opportunity there. And I want to leave you with this, a question to ask. What would your business look like if it was missed, if it was gone? Journal on this question. Spend some time with this question. Because I think the answers to this question are going to allow you to build a business that will equip you to succeed, to continue to be profitable, to continue to serve moving into the future as we enter a brand new world. And on a side note, we just launched this brand new one-on-one coaching program, which I'm super pumped about. And if you're someone who is wanting to grow your online business, to increase your income, your revenue, your impact, to do it in a way that feels aligned for you, and you're wanting help and mentorship and that one-on-one support, me and you in the trenches together, to get that roadmap, to get that feedback, to get the support that you need to actually make that happen. I'd love to open up a conversation about how I might be able to help you. You can submit an application on my website, jasonmoss.com/apply. That's jasonmoss.com/APPLY. That will go directly to me. There's no crazy AI on the background. That goes directly to me. I'll review it personally. If I think I can help you, if I think you're a good fit, I'll reach out to you. We'll have a no pressure chat through your best next steps. So that is available to you, jasonmoss.com/apply. Rooting for you 1000%. And I'm excited to take these next steps forward together. I'll see you in the next episode.